Well, hello, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. Welcome to the Christian Whistleblower Show. I'm coming to you from the heartland of America. Barnabas is not. He's coming to you from a much more exotic location. But we had a great show a few months ago. I got sick the last time we tried to bring Barnabas on. So due to popular request, back with us again is Barnabas Nagy, barnabasnagy.com. So many interesting topics, nothing boring. Barnabas, welcome back to the show.
Hi.
So
Thanks
glad to have you.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Go ahead, if you would, because I would mess it up or leave something out. Introduce yourself to the audience, reintroduce yourself, and let people know what you talk about and where they can find your information, please.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So I talk about different subjects, especially since we last talked with Jeffrey. I got into lots of different other topics. So I'm also a flat earther. I talk about those topics as well. And one of my main topic is fake history. And as far as I know, we are talking about on this show about American fake history, especially Civil War. But I investigate lots of other subjects like such as time, Mandela effect, or the forced monogamy agenda and things like that. So if you want to find my work, as Jeffrey said, it's barnabasnagy.com, or in the same way, just type in Barnabas Nagy into YouTube.
Excellent, excellent. And you have so much interesting stuff you talk about, and there's a lot of overlay with what I talk about. I just did about maybe a month ago, or within the last few weeks, a big series, or at least a couple of shows about Abraham Lincoln, who's presented to us as a hero, but is actually a very, very dark figure and probably was the beginning of the end for anything that remotely resembled what America is supposed to be. So I'm very looking forward to hearing about fake U.S. history, and especially about what I call fake history about Lincoln's War. I don't even call it the Civil War. I call it Lincoln's War.
Okay, right.
So I'll give you the floor, my friend.
Okay, so I got into this just because, I have lots of American subscribers as well. So I like to poke those boxes where my subscribers are. And as you just said, indoctrinate people, basically, and question everything. So
Unindoctrinate.
Unindoctrinate, that's it. So that was an interesting post on Instagram. I'm not really on Instagram, but someone just sent me a link saying, look at this. And I had a look, and it was just Photoshop job of old pictures. And it really got my attention. So I started to investigate, and I wanted to find the original ones. And I did find the original ones, and it was right there on archive.gov, which is an American-run website. And I had the high-res pictures, so I can show them to you if you want me to.
Oh, absolutely, please.
Let's start with that. So if I share my screen, let's see where I go.
It's interesting that a person like you in a country so rich with history is spending any time with our little piddly 200 years worth of history over here.
Yeah. Well, I go into anything that interests me, and I'm definitely, interested in fakery, because I think we just have so much of fakery going on. So I'm not sure. A best of one, I think I just have to share this, right?
And Barnabas, the sad thing is, I don't think anybody will really be shocked to learn that America has a lot of fakery going on.
Yeah, well, that's good. So do you see my screen?
I do.
Okay. So I'm just going to show the same pictures, going through here with you. So this was one of them. Obviously, there are hundreds of photos there. I didn't show all of them on my video, and I'm not going to show here either. But so this is where it starts in 099. This is the 99 picture in the gallery, Civil War. And what you can see here, first of all, is that there are people lying on the floor. Now, the question is, does that prove the Civil War? Like you go into you watch any kind of movie, and you see such scenes, and people
Right.
are laying all over. So these could be actors as well. Now, if you look at this person's mouth, does it look like a human mouth? Look at this O. That's a bit. I'm not sure, but it doesn't look like human to me. That O. in the mouth.
It
See
certainly
what I mean?
looks like it was retouched, and I mean they weren't
Yeah,
supposed to have Photoshop back then.
yeah, exactly. And then, as you will see in other video, in the other pictures as well, there's nothing in the sky. And obviously, some people try to explain that that's because that's an old photograph and it just cannot capture the sky. But why is it that it is able to capture everything else but the sky? You know, like there is no clouds, there is no sun, and nothing going on. So that's a bit weird.
Someone in the chat room makes an interesting observation that everyone is on their back. And
Yeah,
you know, in a war or in a mass casualty situation, typically not everybody falls on their back.
exactly. Yeah. So here's another picture again from the Civil War. And I went through, by the way, all of those pictures. I'm just not showing you all of it. But, you know, we just see these kind of Tartarian buildings destroyed. And that's it. That's Civil War. You know, there are no people. You know, you don't find any battle scene, basically. All you see is dead people or people, you know, training, drills, or destroyed buildings.
That's
So
a very interesting point.
So that's leading me back to, you know, what we talked about last, the mud flood and the civilization reset. So in my opinion, Civil War was one of those resets. They were destroying civilization. And obviously I'm not doubting that there were people who went into the war, but whether it was a real war or not, I doubt that, you know. So I can also imagine that there were people who died, but whether the cause was real or not, that's again questionable.
Very interesting, because the statistics that they share with us say that um, almost a million people died, and that's like 1/3 of the amount of Americans that have died in all wars. So it's the statistics are, I mean, that's what they are what they are.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right.
And they definitely burned much of the South to the ground. Whether again that was a reset, and why did they burn the South to the ground? It's lots of great questions.
Yeah. So again, here's another picture where we can see soldiers in the trench, but again, there's no battle. They are just waiting. They look a bit confused, you know, and all of them have like clean-shaven face and everything. You know, in a war, when you are down in the trenches, you don't have time for all that kind of thing, you know. And if you look at here, all the guns are just thrown there here, and none of them have it. So it's like they're not even ready for the war. They are just sitting around. See what I mean?
That's very interesting. I never would have thought of that just looking at that picture. We're so programmed. This is the Civil War. We know what it is. So these preconceived notions take over, and we almost lose our ability to actually think objectively. Yeah, that doesn't, I mean, I was in the Air Force. We went out in the field every now and then, not much, but these guys have not been in the field very long at all, if at all.
Yeah, and I guess when you are on the field, you have to be ready, right? Anytime you are down to action.
These guys would have all been, every one of them, reprimanded for not having their weapons at the ready.
Yeah, exactly. And again, if you look at the sky, what do you find? It's nothing. So as I said in my video about this very topic, it's either that they just had to hide something was going on, you know, like I believe that there are these unidentified objects. So it could have been something that they wanted to hide, but I rather think that this was a scene captured in Hollywood, and they had a green background or some scaffolding going on, and they had to hide that. So it's not very clear from this photo that it was cut out, but because there's nothing in the sky, you know, I don't know what else could it be.
You know, people would say it's gun smoke and the haze of war, but there's no, I mean, if these guys had recently been in a battle, they would certainly look much different than they do now.
Exactly. You don't see any kind of horror on their face.
No, none at all. It's almost like okay, they look like kids in a class photo at school.
Yeah, exactly. So here's the next one. And again, what you can see is that there's nothing in the sky, right? Why would there be? It's like in the Civil War, there was nothing in the sky. Like there was no such a day where you could capture the sun or some clouds. There were no clouds. And again, the background, you can see here, there's this line, and it's quite clearly, there's nothing there. You usually see at the horizon something else going on, but nothing here. So to me, it looks like a cutout picture from the background.
It definitely looks odd. I wonder what that thing floating around in the sky is there, or just a spot on the film.
Yeah, it could be, or just a bird. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But again, we see people, this is like a drill or marching. Yep. I'm not sure how to call that, but, they are all set up for the war. But where's the war? I didn't find any pictures. You can go through all the archive, and perhaps you want to share the archive link with the people on your channel, but you don't find any battle pictures. So if they had the time to make pictures like this, why didn't they capture the battle scenes?
Amazing. So you're telling me you went all the way through the government archives and you didn't see any battle scenes of what I call Lincoln's War, what's popularly known as the American Civil War.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I didn't.
And as I think about it, have been a student of Lincoln's War for some time, and I too am at a loss to remember any actual what you would call action or battle photos. If you know of some, please feel free to let us know, audience. But yeah, it begins to be curiouser and curiouser, as Alice said.
Yeah. So here's another one, and this one is a very good one because it's just so easy to see. So if I zoom in, you will see what I mean. Can you see that line over there?
Oh, yeah.
Clearly that was cut out because, as you can see, between the trees, there is a different shade of gray.
Yep.
And in the sky, it's another different shade of gray that doesn't happen in nature, just a cutout. So
it's very poor job of it as well.
It's a Photoshop fail.
It is.
And again, what we can see is that there are people on this hill. They have their tents and they are marching or exercising, having a drill. But again, like, what does that prove? It doesn't prove that there was a war. So, and obviously you can put any kind of filters on a photo. So this could have been shot just yesterday.
That's true.
And look, these kind of filters can be applied from Photoshop. It's very easy.
Barnabas, I see most of these photos that you've shown show the Union forces. Is there a lack of photography of the Southern forces?
I'm not sure because I'm actually not even sure about these two different forces. So thanks for reminding me that there are two of these.
Interesting.
I didn't grow up in the US, so I was not even sure what was it all about. But yeah, now I remember that. Was it the North and the South?
Right. The North had the dark blue, which we've seen uniform jackets, and the South had gray.
Okay. So by looking at this, you see that this is South?
That looks like North to me, but it looks like all the ones you have shown have been the North.
Okay.
The South was so gray that in most of the photos, it almost looks white. It was very light gray.
Right. I don't know. Anyway, so here's the next one. And again, there's nothing in the sky. So it's just white sky. And clearly this was just cut out, by Photoshop. There's nothing there.
Amazing.
You will definitely see something, even on an old photograph.
But Barnabas, why cut out the sky? Why do they have to kind of give us a tell that this is fake, or were they just lazy or poor craftsmen?
Well, a guess I have is, we have chemtrails. I'm not sure if you believe in chemtrails.
I do.
So, it's not like they were doing it all along. It's kind of a new kind of experience we have. And I'm not sure when they started it, but perhaps that would prove, if there were chemtrails in the sky, that this was indeed done recently.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. So you suggesting that possibly these are very recent photos faked.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. Or it could be, I believe these were done recently, but the other option is apart from the chemtrails, is that it was just done in a studio, in a Hollywood setting, and then obviously there's a green background, which they usually just cut out, and they just didn't care putting their different background.
Wow. It's just amazing to me that it almost shows to me that if it is fake, that they have such a disdain for us. These people are so stupid. These people don't care. These people are such poor researchers. They won't even question it. They'll just accept it. And the sad truth of it is, Barnabas, that 99.99% of people simply do accept it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's from a government website. It has to be real.
Exactly. That's the thing. We don't question things generally, and we just accept the reality that we are presented with. The Truman Show, when the Christopher, who was asked, why is it that that Truman haven't noticed that he's in this closed-in system, and he just said, well, we just accept the reality that we are presented with. So we believe the authority. That's what we are told from school.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And again, if you look at this picture, what we find is that they are digging some trench here. Next to that, there is this plank wall, wooden wall. But what does that prove? Does it look like a war photo for you?
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And I'm looking at the the individuals that are digging. I mean, they're all obviously all of them look like they're black, but I mean, do those, if we're to believe the whole narrative of slavery and abuse, I mean, do those guys look fairly robust and healthy?
No, it doesn't. That's another good point. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Just by looking at it again, I was like, what is this here? Can you see that? So if I zoom in, it looks like a head.
I was just saying that it looks like someone's got a head on their lap.
Yeah, it's like, what is this, man?
It looks exactly like a head.
Did they decapitate someone and he's just like posing with it? Or I'm not sure.
What is that?
Or is it a dog? Perhaps it's the dog.
Oh, maybe it does look like it is a dog, isn't it? You can see the paws. Okay.
Yeah, but it's anyway.
It's weird. Still very odd.
Yeah. So here, if you go to the right side again, we just see that it's just a bad job. Nothing in the sky. It doesn't look like this. In a photo, you don't see such a clear contrast between the sky and the houses. It's not real. So
it's amazing.
Yeah. Here's another one. So if you look at the landscape at the horizon, again, nothing in the sky, first of all, like literally nothing. And if you zoom in, you can clearly see that it was just cut out. It's just nothing. It's just a Photoshop job.
And this apparently is Washington, D.C.
Yeah, yeah. And what we see here is there's some, cattle, I guess, but no one is on the street. And we see the Tartarian buildings and no war. So, like it's like just like a reset picture. After the reset, obviously there have been not many people walking on the street, but they kept the cattle.
Amazing.
And I think this was the last one. I'm not sure, but here is a hanging scene, right? And again, nothing is in the sky yet. This is the horizon, right? And these people can be clearly seen, but there's nothing in the sky. So no clouds, no sun, yet the people can be seen on the horizon. And in the hanging scene, look at these puppets. Does it look like a real person to you? Because it could be, but it doesn't look like to me. Like a real person. It looks like a puppet to me. All of that.
Even the people hanging, you think?
Yeah. Like, where's the hand,
Yeah.
On a man, you would have a wider shoulder. Men have wider shoulder, unless these were women, which I doubt. You would have a wider shoulder, and you would have the hanging hand. Where's the hand? Like perhaps bound behind, obviously. But this like, look at this. It's just like bound together here as well, just like a puppet.
I've never seen a perfectly pristine hanging like that. I mean, hanging is a very violent thing that happens to the body, and the contortions and the twisting. Yeah, it's very. This looks very much faked. It does.
Yeah. Now, also, these are the people who are looking at this scene. Yeah. Okay. But look, some people look back for the photo because they are, this person looks back as well. So they are confused. And these people here who look like the masters, because they have the top hats and the umbrellas.
Yeah, this would be this. These guys here would be the Union soldiers, and this one's just looking right back at the camera, smiling.
Yeah, and also they just look here to this other side. There's no hanging here. So what are you looking at?
Exactly. I mean, if you're at a hanging, there's dead bodies hanging there. You're probably not going to be looking at what's under the umbrellas over here.
Exactly. But it seems like for them it was more important. So it's just so fake,
And another thing, Barnabas, that strikes me as very odd is this is obviously a group of Union soldiers, but these people over here on the right, especially the ones in the light clothing, they look very much like people of the American South. So why would there be Union people and people from the South celebrating or hanging out together at a hanging? It makes absolutely no sense.
Exactly. Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever.
So are you going to give us some postulations of why this is happening and what they're trying to accomplish if it's not really a war? I mean, it's like they gave a war and nobody came.
Well, I can't just give my idea, but the purpose of my channel is just to make people question things as well. I don't know the answers all the time, and I can just speculate here, but I think they probably were hiding a reset, as I said, and there had to be a reason. They always have to have some sort of story, and it was a great story, a great backstory, to bring people to the war, and when they got there, they were perhaps put in the camps, and who knows what. You don't know.
So Barnabas, when you say a reset, what are you speaking of when you use that term?
So reset is happening in this in the world when we human beings reach a certain level of consciousness, and we find the truth out. And I think at those times they make resets. Like a reset, I think it means that they restart the whole thing. There are the masters who rule the whole world, and they just restart the whole thing, wipe off, just like how the Bible talks about the flood.
Oh, and someone made a real good point, and the picture's gone past, but I see what she's talking about. She said it looks like one of the soldiers was looking at the picture actually in blackface with black makeup on his face, and it did look exactly like that. A couple of points. One about reset then, and then one about possibly now. If you think about what was happening at the time of what they call the Civil War, again, I call it Lincoln's War. Lincoln and his party were trying to move the United States away from this idea of being 50 individual, sovereign, independent states with a loose connection on the federal level. It was very much states' rights, and Lincoln was trying to move it into a strong federal government with states that have almost no rights, but people wouldn't go along with it. Lincoln was trying to create the first federal income tax, and the South wasn't having anything to do with it. Lincoln was trying to create the Federal Reserve System. The South was having nothing to do with it. And so I always thought that they did have a war over it, but it's very possible they could have just made a war, because let's face it, as much as I as a Southerner would like to say that the powers that were in the South were pure as a driven snow, they probably had the same agenda as the powers that were in the North, only the people in the South wouldn't go along with it. So what better idea to have this war, quote unquote, and still march people off to battle and still have almost 1 million people die, but not really die, because why spend all the money on the war? Why spend all the money on materiel? And unless you're in the South where it was burned down, it's hard to prove that, especially when this is the photographic evidence, that they actually had a true hot war. You're expanding my thinking into new possibilities, Barnabas.
Yeah, it's quite possible. I mean, why not? You know, all of history is set up, I believe. What we experience is the now. So I can be sure about that, and perhaps some of the things that my grandpa said or my grandma said. But beyond that, how do we prove it? We have some photographic evidence, but everything can be faked. And we have books, but people can write whatever, they could write the
Absolutely.
Bible. They wrote the Bible. We believed it, and it turned out to be, unreal.
Completely unreal. And
Yeah.
in the South at that time, you had this great surge of independence, this great surge of rugged individualism, a great return back to classic literature and study like Aristotle and Socrates, a real turn back to humanities and art. And when those things start happening, people are getting dangerously close to a rise in consciousness. So it makes perfect sense that the Civil War, whether it was a hot war or not, was orchestrated to reset human consciousness. And Barnabas, if you and I are doing our job and people are coming closer to raising their consciousness today, are we in danger of undergoing a reset now?
I think so. I mean, probably it's very close. If you look around, I think the 5G technology is not new, but it is coming, and there is no 6G. So if there was 6G, then probably something more was going to come. But 5G is the end plan, I believe. They are setting up those antennas, and they want to finish that by 2020 around the world. Not sure how they are going to complete that, but I think that probably is going to be one of the new reset kind of technology that may kill people.
So do you think 5G will actually literally kill people?
Oh yeah, I mean, there are documents proving that 5G has been tested on the field. They use 5G to kill people and to disable people on field. So it's a military technology. It's nothing else.
It's amazing. And do you have any ideas of things that we might be able to look for to be on guard that they're trying to do a reset on us?
Well, I think what we could do, is try to boycott 5G. But since they are the leaders and they are the masters, I doubt that this would happen. We would need to become so united and so strong that and we would need to overthrow them, which is probably a difficult, tough job.
It is. But, Barnabas, I'm confused because President Trump is a great guy. President Trump loves the people. President Trump is not part of the cabal. And yet President Trump is the one pushing 5G stronger than anybody.
Well, I'm not sure if you're joking or...
I am joking somewhat. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, I don't believe that he's a good guy. I wanted to believe that. In Europe, we are shown what is going on in America quite a bit, especially when there's a new presidential election. We are told and we are shown, everywhere, news media. And that was like a guy who was, saying good stuff. Like, he said he's not from the cabal. He's not from the elite, and he's the only one who is not. And yet, when you look into his backstory and his cabinet members, he's full of Zionist Jews.
He is.
So there's nothing different. He's just a good actor. He's really a good actor. I mean, he's my favorite actor.
Yeah. And, myself, I've met President Trump, and in my optimism, I like to think that, the facts are that he was literally less than 24 hours away from personal bankruptcy to the tune of $1 billion. And at the last second, there was 12 banks that held that debt. 11 of them were Jewish Israel banks. The other one was a German bank. The German bank said, no, we're not going to let him out. But the rest of the 11 banks said, okay, we'll let him out and they made this statement publicly. I've seen the video. Donald Trump is more valuable working for us than if he were to go bankrupt. So since then, love him or hate him, Donald Trump is bought and paid for to the tune of $1 billion to this banks. And I think that they give him some leeway to do some things he wants to do. But at the end of the day, he has to get the third temple built. He has to go along with all pro-Israel activity. And whether I'm optimistic, right in my optimism or not, the man is bought and paid for at the bottom line.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's a paid actor, and that's a good proof what you just said. And you know, back to the third temple and all those things that he is set to accomplish, and his Jewish ties. That again leads us back to Revelation and the master plan. I believe Revelation is the master plan of the parasites, of the Freemasons, the Illuminati.
Absolutely. Did you have anything else that you wanted to bring up specifically on this false Civil War, Lincoln's War history?
I think this was probably, I had a couple of more pictures, but not more. So like maybe like 3 more. We can have a look at those.
Okay. And then maybe we can broach a couple of other subjects on them before we finish up.
Yeah, that's fine for me as well. I don't mind, whichever you prefer.
Go ahead and show those pictures that you have. I'd love to see them.
Okay, so here's another one where again the top hats are sitting around, and again this is from the archive. Nothing in the sky.
Nothing in the sky.
Yeah, and you know, just sitting around, and that's it. So talk about Civil War again. Some soldiers and having a good cup of tea, maybe some soup or something, talking, and that's it. You know,
it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
And here's another one, which is, you know, from the trenches, and they have these cannons. But again, nothing in the sky. Like the sky is just missing. You know, like they just cut and paste job.
Barnabas, before you run past that one again, as I look at these soldiers, and I've never noticed this before. They're all completely, totally clean. There's no dirt on them. There's no brush on them. There's no fatigue of battle. These are not pictures of soldiers involved in a horrible, bloody, brutal war. It's just not.
Yeah, exactly. I believe they are actors. So look at this. Like you would go in a white shirt, you know, to your war.
And be perfectly clean when you're stuffing the barrels of cannons.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to be. Yeah.
And it's just amazing. And I mean, but he's got no dirt on him. His job is to fill cannons, and presumably they fire those cannons. How do you stay pristine clean when your job is to fire cannons?
I don't know.
And maybe all of them are clean. Look at them.
Yeah.
I guess all these pictures were taken on Sunday morning, right after everybody had a bath on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's just like they just killed 1,000 soldiers and then change everyone. Now change because now it's photograph time.
And we have to understand that back in the 1800s, it wasn't like today. People didn't change their clothes every day. People didn't change their clothes twice a day. People, especially in war, and when you're in the field in battle, you've got 1, maybe 2 uniforms, and you wear those things until literally they're so stinky you can't wear them anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think they would have, you know, like a suitcase full of changing clothes for the picture. So
this list, the more I look at it, it looks like a Hollywood production. It really does.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I bet if we were able to go through these with a fine-tooth comb, and I mean, and those guys on the horizon look like a couple minarets or puppets as well. I bet if we could go through this with, you know, high magnification, we could find like Coke cans or something. We would find mistakes in the pictures if we had the time and the photographic ability to look at them in great detail.
Yeah, I'm not a photographer, so I'm just looking at as a layman. But what I can see, you know, is again, there's nothing in the sky in this picture either. You just cut out, you know, too much contrast going on here, and again, they're just sitting, you know, standing around, and they have this cannon looking something. Doesn't even look like a real cannon to me.
It doesn't.
And that's it. And there's this ghost guy. Obviously, that is because of the exposure they are telling us. I don't know. And then here's another one. Look at that bad job. Like you can't make this stuff up. Here's
you can't.
Here's kind of gray between these trees, and then I look at the sky. Nothing in the sky again. It's just like cut out job. So
it's amazing. It's amazing. And this one looks like it's have some kind of a crazy filter on it.
Yeah. Yeah, old picture.
Look at this tree. I'm looking at the camera with the Canon in the foreground. Look at that tree. These trees are horribly photoshopped. They're horribly cut out. It's cut and pasted like a third grade or maybe a sixth grader would do in a photo.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody says, "Where's the cannonballs? Where's the ammo?"
Yeah, there's nothing. It's just set up scene. Where are the people?
Now, are these Civil War reenactors? People are asking in the chat room.
Yeah, definitely actors.
Everything looks cropped, they're saying.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And we have someone in the chat room says they're half human, half vampire. That's interesting. Their mother has no soul, blue eyes, red hair, mean, loveless, narcissistic, and abusive. That's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. So again, here is another picture. Again, nothing in the sky, as you can see. And they are just in the trenches, just looking happy, clean uniforms, smile, posing for the picture.
And look at the cannon, Barnabas. It's like they just polished it up.
Yeah, it's very polished. Look at that. It's like you could use it for a mirror.
You actually could shave in it.
Yeah, you could shave.
It's brand new. It looks like it's never been fired.
Yeah.
How did it get moved up there without getting some dirt on it?
Oh, exactly. And how did you move down there, this beast, into the
how did you get that thing into that trench? Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, look at these guys. Perfectly serene, perfectly clean, no bullet holes, no nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's clearly staged. It's clearly staged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So,
boy, this just makes you have to rethink everything that you think is real. And Barnabas, it's almost like nothing's real, is it?
It looks like it. Yeah. I believe we are living in an actor-based reality.
An actor-based reality.
Yeah, most of politics and media is actors.
How do we know who isn't an actor, or is there any way to tell? How do I know, Barnabas, that you're not an actor right now?
Well, I think the actors wouldn't expose these kind of things, but actors.
That's true.
So you can tell by that.
But that brings up an interesting point, and logically, I would have to think that somewhere within what we call the truth movement, there are actors, there are paid opposition to get in and infiltrate our ranks and keep us stirred up about the wrong things and take us down wrong paths. Do you think that's possible?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially about flat Earth. There's so many shields you can't stop counting them.
That's so true. And one of these days we'll have to talk about that. I'd love to have a rational, non-name calling, fact-based, empirical look at the evidence for flat Earth, because I know there's people like you and Mark Centerstain, who's on this channel, and Nigel, who's on this channel, who are all highly educated people, highly intelligent people, and you believe in flat Earth. So that makes me think that I would like to at least explore the empirical data that causes you to come to this conclusion, even though I myself currently am very, very far from being able to share it with you.
That's fine. I'm glad to talk about this.
Excellent. We'll have to do that sometime. And do you think personally that we are either in the midst of or looking hard at a reset coming at us?
Oh, yeah, I think so. We are just waking up to so many different truth rabbit holes. We talk about fake history, the actor-based reality, the Bible fake, all the religions, and we are just waking up. There are so many more people waking up every week. I see it on my channel. I'm sure that you experience the same thing. There
Absolutely.
Are more and more people waking up.
What can we do to protect ourselves against a reset?
That's $1 million question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
No words of hope or encouragement or even any ideas?
To be honest, but I wouldn't think that there's much you can do, except I don't think it's a great idea if you live in a city, because you talk about the Agenda 21, 5G, all of that is very easy to implement in the cities, and that's what they want. People move into the cities, and every kind of apocalyptic movie you see, most of it, you are captured in the city, right? Because it's just so easy to set up any kind of trap or technology. But if you live in a village, there's a higher chance of survival, especially if you have good neighbors, if you establish a, rapport with them, a small community, a local area. That's always a good thing because people can help each other out. But if you're in a city, you don't know, your next neighbor, and they just come in, they just stop, giving you food, and that's it. They stop the paycheck, and that's it. Or whatever catastrophe they start, you just don't have anything to do. But if you're in a village, and especially if you know how to gather, your own food, hunt, fish, whatever your taste is, then you have a better chance of survival.
And the thing to consider, Barnabas, is at least in America, it's a little bit different in Europe, but in America, most of our cities are built around major highways and major freeways. And most of our cities, if they shut down at the most like 4 roads, you could not get in or out of a city. So I think and I'm not talking about being a crazy prepper and buying a bunker, but even if there's just a loss of the power grid or some sort of an interruption of services, it's really a good idea if you can maybe sell your Mercedes and sell all of your silly toys and get yourself a location within an hour of where you are that you can quote unquote bug out to and live, as you're saying, rurally. Have some food there, have some supplies there, be able to defend yourself, and walk around with an attitude of vigilance, looking and discerning and thinking. And if you need to go more than an hour to get to where you're going, it's probably too far. Exactly.
It's too late.
Yeah.
So these things are not coming like, you get an email in the morning and it will happen at night. So.
Absolutely. Let me ask you a question that's completely off the subject, and I don't know if you know anything about this or not. I'm very skeptical of it. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, and I'm not saying that there aren't some people that really are in this because it's who they are. But do you think that there is a planned, scripted, transgender agenda trying to help take us down as a society?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think most of what we see in Hollywood is transgender people.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do. And there's actually proof if you look into it. So there are certain, characteristics for a man and for a woman. And once you look into it, it's clear. There's the jawline, for instance. The jawline is for men, it's more square-like, whereas for women, it's very rounded. So when you see a woman playing a woman, and it has that person has a very squarey jawline, it's probably a tranny.
That's interesting. And as you were saying that, I thought back to the Elizabethan times and the Shakespearean or Sir Francis Bacon times, and in the theater, it was always men that were playing the parts of women.
Yeah.
So the more history changes, the more things stay the same, huh?
Right, exactly. But we have better makeup, you can hide things a little bit better. So I think that's what they are playing on. But even if you look into like music or just general media, you can see people using this androgynous characteristics. So for instance, Nirvana or other, pop music artists, they put on female garments, even though they are men, or vice versa. So they definitely do that.
What do you think the point is?
Well, the point is depopulation, I guess. So again, back to the reset. So when people don't make children, then it's game over.
Have they decided that having wars and causing diseases is a little bit too sloppy, or at least they can, if you can cause people to stop procreating, maybe it makes it a little bit easier for you to reach your depopulation agenda without killing millions of people? But you still got the rapture. They could kill 1 billion people just like that, and people that believe the Bible would be praising their Jesus all the way to their own graves.
Yeah. That could be one psyop. It's the rapture, but as you said, it's much easier. So they figured this out. This is a much easier, cleaner job. So why not?
And I don't know if this is a joke or not, Barnabas, but somebody, Rain Dance 37 in the chat room says, "Seek Jesus, he loves us." I hope that's a joke, but maybe it's not. He does love us. He loves us barbecued. He loves us filleted. He loves us many different ways because he's here to eat our energy and to
Yeah,
consume us. So you're right. Jesus does love us, but
yeah.
maybe not in the way that you think Jesus loves us. And Tracy Dyer says androgyny is incorrectly taking a spiritual principle literally, the same error of the religious. Because it's interesting that in the New Age movement, we have a lot of talk about being balanced between male and female and the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine. That's
Hmm.
true. That's good to be balanced, but you don't want to become, if you're a woman, you still want to be a woman. If you're a man, you still want to be a man. There's reasons that women are women, and there's reasons that men are men, and we need both. We don't need women like men or men like women. We need strong, powerful women and strong, powerful men. And some people, Barnabas, think that strong, powerful men can use more than one strong, powerful woman, don't they?
Yeah, that's one of me.
And it's interesting because some of the smartest guys that I know whisper these things in my ear about, is monogamy just part of the fear and guilt control matrix? And of course, it's not for everyone, but is it an absolute? And it seems like anything that comes up as a cultural absolute or a moral absolute, it's almost our duty to look at it and see, is this really an absolute, or is this just something that they've absolutely been telling us is true?
Oh yeah, well, you know about the Catholic leadership and the Bible fakery. So the Catholics created the monogamy idea. The forced monogamy idea. Monogamy is always there, but the forced monogamy idea that you can only have one woman, it's an ideology. It was created by the Vatican. So and it's because of power and control. Because when people are strong and they create strong families, a polygamous family can be 20, 30, 40 people. And so that's already a society. It can become a village. In 2, 3 generations, it becomes an army. So that's a danger.
Jeannie Griffin says she was born with a vagina. She takes it as a good thing and doesn't apologize for it. Thank you for that. What
So,
what's the, maybe you just hit on this, but what's the, now of course, thinking as just a man in a carnal position, we can understand why it'd be beneficial for men to be able to have sex with more than one woman. What is the benefit for the woman in a polygamous or a non-monogamous type setup, Barnabas?
well, when there are more children, they can share responsibilities. And even in just one family, if you have more than 2, 3 children, you have lots of duties, especially if you stay at home and care for the household. And those duties can be shared.
Oh, that's a
Some
good
women,
point.
some women don't like to have sex every day because they don't have the drive, and then that can be shared as well. And I have read testimonials where women are happy that they don't have to do that every day because it becomes a duty for them.
That's interesting. So you, in theory, if you had a polygamous type community, the women that feel like their duty and their job and their calling is to nurture children and raise children, there's a place for that, and a very honored place for that. For the women that are more drawn to science or the arts or construction or whatever, there's a place for that. I can see your point of, it opens up gender roles for everyone to not be locked into certain selections. And let's face it, there's probably women out there that would enjoy having sex with more than one man too, Barnabas.
Well, yeah, that's polyandry, and that's usually just only in societies that are very, very poor, and it's usually just to keep the land. So there are some societies, I'm not sure, was it in Nepal or somewhere there, and they just do that because otherwise they would have to share the land, and they don't want to share the land, so they keep it in the family. That's why they have androgyny. But otherwise it just doesn't really work because according to my experience, my research, the female psychology is drawn to loving and clinging to one man, whereas men don't have that kind of clinging.
Have you postulated as to why?
That's probably how it was set up. Like, I don't believe in God anymore, but whoever set up the system, you look at the animals, it's the same thing. There are some animals who seem to be monogamous. I haven't followed any animals, but most of the animals that I have, I have some animals as well. They just don't care.
Yeah.
They have as many females as they want.
Now, how would you answer the people that would say, well, that's a lower base drive in a man? A true man would be attracted to just one woman, and that's a result of sin, or the result of fall, or the result of a low morality in a man.
Well, first of all, sin is something that you define by the Bible, and the Bible is not really a good source to define these kind of things, I believe. And it's not just about the sex drive, as I said, because it's about the economic power. Once you can share these resources, you can create a family that is really strong, and all of those people who are in it can benefit from it. So not just the man, but also the women and the children.
You know, it's interesting. I have a regular college degree as well as a Bible college degree, and in the thought of human reproduction and the thought of evolution, the male drive is to produce as many fertile offspring as possible. And if we bring that to a sociological level, where we're trying to overcome a fear and guilt control matrix, or trying to gain our sovereignty and our freedom, if we can get more fertile offspring that we can raise and rear to be divine, sovereign, and free, that, the numbers might eventually start tilting in our favor.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you do something, like you start a project, you would probably not just create one project. You have different versions, right? So we want to create the best option available. So if I make a song, let's say I record a song, I have several versions, and I will choose the one that is the best. So as you said, you could create the best offspring. But on the other hand side, when people talk about monogamy and polygamy, the most ridiculous thing is that we are living in a polygamous society wherever you are. So even in America or Hungary, people have lovers all the time. So you just don't know about it. So if you're a woman, you just have to get in touch with yourself, because that's the fact.
Some women might find you a bit cynical, Barnabas, but that's okay. This show is for new ideas. This show is for interesting ideas. And we've certainly shared some of those today. You don't have to agree. We're not trying to make anybody mad. We're not trying to lay down any rules or laws. We're just trying to help you expand your horizon, think about some things you haven't thought about before, consider some things you haven't considered before. And some of it, you'll say, no, I don't like that. But there might be somewhere an idea that sticks. So eat the meat, spit out the bones, eat the vegetables, throw out the trimmings, however you want to draw the analogy. But Barnabas, tell people where they can get a hold of your information. And thank you so much for being here.
Okay. So if you just search on YouTube and type in my name, you will find my channel, or go to barnabasnagy.com. You will find me.
Absolutely. And no, we're not defending cheating. We're just talking about biological and social reality. So again, yeah. We're talking about the world as it is. We're not defending anything. We're not drawing any conclusions. I'm in a monogamous relationship. I don't know what Barnabas is, but that's okay. We're just trying to think outside the box here, ladies and gentlemen. It's not always going to be comfortable when you start thinking outside the box. Growth is rarely comfortable. So don't get upset. Take a deep breath. We're not attacking. We're not defending. We're just discussing. Isn't that right, Barnabas?
That's right.
Well, thanks so much for being here. Hopefully, maybe we can get together for a discussion of flat Earth or some of these other topics that everyone is in agreement on and don't cause any discussion, right?
Yeah, sure. No problem. I'm up for that.
Barnabas, thanks so much for being here. Please stay there 1 second so I can say goodbye to you personally. For those of you in the chat room, I appreciate you being here as well. Again, not to upset anybody, just to get us thinking outside the box, because once you learn to think outside the box on one subject, you'll find you can do it on many. And that really is the key, ladies and gentlemen, to unindoctrinating yourself. And that's what we're here for, is to help you unindoctrinate yourself. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty for Barnabas Nagy at barnabasnagy.com. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again real soon.